Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a video where I will be discussing the differences between Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas and trying to answer the question, which of these two is the better game? My name is Juggernaut. Let's get into it. So, the game in the background we're seeing right now is Fallout New Vegas. And this video will be separated into two parts. One where I will discuss what's good about Fallout New Vegas, and the other what's good about Fallout 4 in comparison to the other game, respectively. So, that means that we should eventually come to some sort of conclusion on what I think is the better game and compare them in a somewhat fair order, I suppose. Now, you might think, well, it's not exactly fair to compare a game that came out years ago with a modern game that, you know, came out this November. Fair enough, but there are some things to consider, and Fallout New Vegas being an older game does not necessarily mean that it is worse, in some respect. Obviously, we're going to start off with Fallout New Vegas and list all the things that I believe are better in Fallout New Vegas than are in Fallout 4. Disclaimer before we begin, this is all entirely subjective. You may completely disagree with me, and I expect that. I expect to be honestly getting a lot of shit over saying one or the other is better. Some of you might think New Vegas is a better game, some of you might think Fallout 4 is the best game of all time. Fair enough. I'm just here to voice my opinion, and if there's anyone willing to listen to me, I thank you. Now, let's begin with one major point in Fallout New Vegas that is better than in Fallout 4. That is freedom. No, there's not the MCN on YouTube. Freedom in terms of what are we exactly allowed to do in this open world game. This is a very important thing to get right in an RPG, and especially in a Bethesda RPG. The freedom we have in Fallout New Vegas is huge. It is absolutely massive. We can make practically any character we would like, and we can have this character be almost any type of personality and build him any way we want. Whereas in Fallout 4, you're thrown into a pre-existing character with a pre-existing story. Now, sure enough, you were given a prelude, if you will, or a tutorial to your character in all Bethesda games. Fair enough, I'm not denying that. However, in most Bethesda games, you were given this story and were also given the option to ignore it. For example, you were set out in Fallout 3 to find your father. Fair enough, that game told a bit more of a personal story than this, maybe. Here, you're what exactly, a courier that got shot in the head? Now, fair enough, there's a DLC that ties into that, but other than that, you can completely ignore the fact that you got shot in the head, go off in a direction, and do the main game. And I don't mean ignore the main quest and the main storyline, I mean do get to the end of the game. You can just slightly almost forget about the start of your character. You start your character, or rather your character starts when you start the game. In Fallout 4, on the other hand, you're already given a character with a history, with a wife, with a child, with military background, which is for some reason emphasized. This is different. This is a different way of doing it, but for Bethesda, I'd argue that it's wrong. For one simple reason, this is the way that you tell a more personal story. And fair enough, it is completely expected of some RPGs to do that. Take a look at The Witcher, for example. You expect a very personal story, not from just not just from the main character, but from all sorts of characters in the game as well. You expect an emotional roller coaster. The story of Fallout has always been a more open, I guess. Okay, that's funny. Openness in building your character and deciding how exactly he's going to act and what exactly his story is going to be, not going with a pre-made one that's already there for you. Essentially, what I'm getting at is we are given a lot more freedom in New Vegas, and this continues throughout the game, not just building your character. I'm going to give you an example of this soon, but to generalize it a bit more, in Fallout New Vegas, you could be evil. And this is a big argument that's going on the internet right now. People arguing it whether it's whether you're given the choice to be evil or not in Fallout 4, and the fact that we're arguing it means that there's something wrong. Hands down, you could be the biggest scumbag ever in New Vegas, but more than that, you can actually be evil. And I don't mean the red text option like you get in some games, Mass Effect. I don't mean being a renegade or being a prick towards others. I mean genuinely being evil. You could enslave people. You can commit genocide and murder whole tribes. And that is without any of the mods. You can just do that in the vanilla game. We're going to get into the mods discussion after this. Whereas in Fallout 4, there's only really 1 or 2 options that you can pick in certain scenarios where you could say, oh, that is just evil. That's not being a scumbag, that is evil. And here's the thing. I'm going to try and keep the entire discussion as spoiler-free as possible in terms of Fallout 4. I'm going to spoil some things about New Vegas, obviously, because it's an old game now, and I expect most of you played it already. The ones of you that did plan on playing it at any point. So, thing is, we were given only 1 or 2 options in the entirety of Fallout 4 to be evil. One of those is a speech that you do for a certain faction. I'm not going to spoil anything else. In that speech, you can use some really, you know, tyrannical evil options, and fair enough. That ties into the ending of the game. But in terms of actually doing evil stuff, you can't really do that. You're meant to be the protagonist. Now, as I said, fair enough, that's a way of doing games, but that's not exactly the way to do Fallout games, which have always been a sort of make-your-own dude and give him as many different options to pick as possible. We get to pick 4 options, and 3 of them are more or less the same one, and 1 of them is sarcastic. That's, at least in Fallout 4, that's the way it is. New Vegas lets you join the Legion, ancient medieval warriors. Well, sorry, not medieval, ancient, well, debatable. Sort of ancient Roman-esque warriors, slavers, and imperialists. You can make your own army of robots and have them commit genocide across the Nevada desert, eliminating tribes that you simply don't like. Even the game says it like that. You could form the New Californian Republic, well, not form, but join up with the New Californian Republic and try and rebuild the government and play more of a good guy character, but the government is always, you know, a bit of unnecessary evil. It is corrupt. There is moral choices there to be made, but you know, you're given all these different options. In Fallout 4, you're given a choice between a couple of factions, and all of them are trying to do the right thing. Which you might think, oh, then that's a big, like, moral question, right? Which one of them is right? Well, yeah, but there's, like, not much of a moral debate going on in there. It's just pick the one you think is right and go with it. And the game even lets you not pick any of them until almost the last two or 3 quests down towards the end, so yeah, that's it, comparing the factions, if you will. But here we could do whatever we want. We can build a necessarily truly evil character, not just a prick. You're not forced to be the hero. In fact, there is no hero unless that you want there to be a hero in Fallout New Vegas, which is, I think, far superior than giving you a character that is necessarily the good guy or necessarily the bad guy. So far more options in the way of choice regarding the actual story of your character, right? Okay, well, is there anything else? Regarding the story, I would consider not much more, because the main storyline that you follow, the main quest line, I would say is maybe a tiny bit better in Fallout 4, in terms of, you know, the first quest you get, like the main storyline. Finding your son is obviously that in Fallout 4, and then you know, go through different quests and then do different things, which I'm not going to spoil. Here it's basically who shot me in the head. And that's fair enough. You do sort of catch on to this whole glorious plot in New Vegas about the platinum chip, and you get into that sort of complex political struggle going on between three different factions, and it all ties in really well. So I put them on more or less the same level, maybe giving a slightly bit of an edge towards Fallout 4, not because of the writing, but more or less because of the means they have at their disposal to achieve a good storyline, i.e. the game's newer. Now let's go on to another thing in New Vegas that I find better than in Fallout 4, and then, as I said later, we're going to discuss what's better in Fallout 4. So wait, if you're curious about that. And the next massive thing would be mods. Now, I'm talking about Fallout 4 in the state that it is in currently. That is December 2015. Why is this important? Because mods for Fallout 4 are going to be coming out soon, and there's going to be metric tons of them. New Vegas had its fair share of time in the sunlight, and the playthrough you're seeing right now is actually made with 68 mods. I'm missing one off the perfect number. Okay, get serious, Jug. There are, as I said, dozens of mods that you can use, if not hundreds, for Fallout New Vegas, and considerably less for Fallout 4, which is to be expected, obviously. But that said, I have no idea where Eddie's finding all these mantises. That said, the potential for Fallout 4 is a lot bigger, I think. Now, comparing the games as they are right now, mods make a huge, massive part of New Vegas. Why? If there wasn't such a huge modding community, I think I would have played through New Vegas once, twice, and then left. It's the mods that make you want to come back to the game constantly. And they do it damn successfully. It's the mods that are going to make you want to come back to Fallout 4 as well, but later down the line. Right now, there isn't much in the way of that. So, there are some of the most important mods in New Vegas are realistic weapon damage, Project Nevada, some total overhaul mods that, for people who have finished the game once, they want a really challenging, difficult experience, a very different experience maybe, in terms of the actual gameplay, and they get that through all these different mods. So the superiority definitely goes to New Vegas in that sense, which only makes sense. The game's been out for ages now, and it only makes sense that it would be the one with more mods, and in that sense it gets points there, I suppose. However, there is also another aspect that we kind of need to consider, and that's the average user. Not a lot of people use mods. They're often, I don't want to say scared, but scared to use them. If you take a look at just the simplest mods and the most popular ones, it's still like a ridiculously low percentage of people that actually use them. So, that said, it's just something to consider. Not everyone uses them, and as a result, the value of New Vegas is severely diminished, because if you don't use mods, playing this game in 2015, well, you should use mods. I'm just going to leave it at that. So, moving on. The next aspect I'm going to talk about is something probably actually very important to an average user: the price. Now, fair enough, Fallout New Vegas is old, and obviously Fallout 4 came out in November, so it's of course going to be a full-priced game, but it's still a thing, right? It's still a fact that you can't ignore, is that New Vegas is now dirt cheap. I think you can get it on sale for like $5 or something like that, a handful, essentially, whereas Fallout 4 is $60, and in terms of value for entertainment, I still think that you can play New Vegas and get a lot of hours from that game and genuinely properly have fun with it. Which is not to say you can't do that with Fallout 4. Obviously you can, but again, price is, you just can't ignore it. I feel like I had to mention it. Take it as you will. To some people, it's not important. They're like, well, of course I'm going to pay $60 for this game. You know, it's a new game. I'm used to this. I expected this as much. So yeah, but some people don't look at it like that. And well, let's be honest. A lot of people don't have $60 to cough up right now for an RPG. So that said, moving on, the actual engine of the games.
Hey.
Here's the thing. You'd expect New Vegas to be a lot worse because, you know, the engine's older, and fair enough, visually the game isn't great. But again, you can use mods to you can use mods. You can't really make it look great. Obviously, the what's it called?
You still okay, Bri?
The new engine is going to look better in Fallout 4, but
well,
I'm sorry, I've been assassinated. No, I haven't been assassinated. That would have been awkward. I'm sorry, I've been assassinated. I'm sorry, I've been slightly distracted by this. Yeah, the new engine you can't make it look great, as good as Fallout 4, but with certain mods like Dynavision and retexture mods and whatnot, you can make it have a great atmosphere. And we'll take a look at Stalker, for example. The atmosphere in that game completely overwhelms the lack of graphical fidelity. And whereas the game looks, to be honest, incredibly basic in terms of its graphical fidelity, you find that it doesn't really matter because of the great atmosphere that it has. And you can sort of do the same thing with mods in New Vegas. But yes, the engine is newer in Fallout 4, so it's going to have that edge in technologically speaking, but the performance and everything, I'm not that impressed. I'm honestly not. I think it's high time that Bethesda get a new engine for their RPGs, and I know, it is incredibly difficult to make a new engine and a new game and have, you know, you're starting from scratch. It's incredibly easy, it's 100 times easier to make it on an engine that you already know how to work with and that you've used in the past, right? I know, but it's just a simple fact of the matter is you can't keep reusing it all the time, and it's starting to show its age, the one that they've used for Fallout 4, and I think it's high time that they change for the next game at least. Now, that said, you can't really give New Vegas points here for being better in that sense, but you can't really say it's worse. There is some mechanics that are just flat out better in Fallout 4. Okay, you can use vertibirds. It isn't a spoiler, you saw it in the trailer before the game actually released. So yeah, there's vertibirds, there's a whole load of stuff that you can't have here, and that's fair enough, but that said, it isn't that better in every way. Now, the combat is better, but that's something I'm going to talk about when playing Fallout 4 and over there, like talk about what the good sides of Fallout 4 are. And there's quite a lot of those as well, and just because I have the feeling that I'm making not really a mistake, but I'm misrepresenting here. Like I like Fallout New Vegas more. I'm not trying to put that in yet. Like, that's a discussion for the end of the video. But I'm just listing all the good things and the things that I think are better in New Vegas than in Fallout 4. I think I already mentioned this, but I need to emphasize that again. So, what about the world itself? This is interesting. Short version of the discussion is as follows. Both are great, and I can't make my mind up. I really can't. I really seriously can't. Probably if New Vegas had a bigger world and more of these areas that are added through mods like A World of Pain, then I would go as far as to say maybe New Vegas is slightly better, but it doesn't. The vanilla game lacks these things, and sure enough, with mods, you can add hundreds of new places, and yes, that means it ultimately turns out better. But again, it's not exactly fair because mods can only take you so far, and when comparing the games, especially bearing in mind that Fallout 4 is going to have the same mods as well, and maybe even more. So it's not exactly fair in that sense. But anyways, what about the world itself as it is in both games right now, without any mods? They're very different. They are very different. Sure enough, that's obvious to everyone. The games are very different, and the worlds are very different. I have no idea why I'm overloaded, and it's completely distracting me. Hold on. This level of unprofessionalism has not ever been seen, ever, on this channel, I swear. Okay. New Vegas went for this Western aesthetic, which is fairly obvious. It has some great elements to it. It has some very mysterious places, some very cool-looking places, especially if you go, I'm going to show you on the map here, especially if you go to the Black Mountain, there, and if you go up there. So it does have this urban city of post-apocalyptic Vegas. It does have the deserts in the south. The quarry is great. The Boomers base and all that up there. The DLC areas, I haven't really talked about them, and I think it's only fair that we include them because DLC is dirt cheap right now, and sure enough, Fallout 4 doesn't have any DLC yet, but again, considering that the price is so low, I think it's only fair that we include the DLC. And with the DLC areas that you get, it has enough diversity. Without them, the game may get a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but it's supposed to be. It's boring in a good way. It's boring in the way that you'd expect it, because it's a desert. You can't make a desert horribly interesting. It is what it is. Everything's burned down and destroyed. It can't look exactly phenomenal, can it? And from a visual perspective, flat out, Fallout 4 has the advantage there. But then again, that's more of a technical side to the game. What about the actual story itself in terms of oh god, okay? In terms of, did I say story? I'm being distracted by themes. Yes, I'm blaming them. What about the world itself in terms of the places that you explore and whatnot? And there, I would argue that... Please let me have control again. Thank you. Well, I just bugged the game out. Excuse me, there was I needed to reload. Okay. In terms of the places that you get to explore and the exploration part, which is obviously huge in Fallout in all Fallout games, really, ignoring the graphical fidelity and all that, then I would consider both of them being on the same level, if I'm honest. I can't really make my mind up. Because, fair enough, New Vegas looks great, but it isn't, in terms of the things you get to explore, it isn't a huge leap forward in terms of everything that you see and the places that you visit. Sure, the various areas of Boston look great, the river looks great, the further south you get is interesting, it changes, the north is very, very beautiful. It's actually a shame we don't spend more time in the north, in like the Woodlands area, because I think that's a gorgeous part of the game. But there's a limit to all the different looks and biomes that you meet in Boston, and as well as in the Nevada, so they're fairly equal in that sense. Because if you think about it, there's vaults here, there's vaults there that you get to explore in terms of the indoors areas, and I think vaults in Fallout 4 are done a lot better. I really do. I think vaults are done a lot better in Boston than they are done in the Nevada. But there's also these huge indoors and bunkers and all that, the areas that you explore in New Vegas that aren't exactly as memorable in Fallout 4, at least in my experience. I know I've mentioned this before, but this is entirely subjective, and I expect people to disagree with me. As I said, I don't expect this to be universally accepted. It's just the way I feel about it. So, in terms of the world itself, I can't really say one is better than the other. I'd put them in fairly much the same range of quality. So this would more or less conclude my pros of Fallout 4. Sorry, God's sake, Fallout New Vegas. That's the features that I listed, I believe, are better in, or at least equal to Fallout New Vegas in comparison to Fallout 4. Let me simplify that. They're better in New Vegas, or they're at least equal to Fallout 4. So, we're now going to go ahead and jump into into Fallout 4, and I'm going to discuss what I think is better in that game. One more thing before we go there, though. In terms of New Vegas, I've played through New Vegas 9 times. This is the 10th playthrough. 8 of them have been with mods. Huge, like, metric tons of mods. So that should be considered when I'm giving my opinion on which of the games is better, because one of them I've played through once, the other I've played through 9 times, and this is my 10th playthrough. As I said, I'm maybe not completely objective because of that, but I like to think that I'm being objective, despite playing Fallout New Vegas a lot more. That said, the fact that I can still go back and play New Vegas after all this time should alone speak of the quality of the game. Just outside of this comparison between the two, it should itself, the fact itself should tell you that I have a pretty high opinion of this game. So, let's jump into Fallout 4 now. And here we are in Fallout 4. God, it looks different. And just from the basic jump from New Vegas to Fallout 4, you might think, well, this is obvious which of these is a better game. Well, is it isn't. The lighting is fairly gorgeous in comparison. So, I did say I was going to talk about exclusively the good things about Fallout 4 when I show you gameplay of Fallout 4. I'm going to break that rule ever so slightly and mention something I didn't mention, the guns. The guns in New Vegas, I actually prefer very, very slightly. That is, the modding of your guns in New Vegas is a bit dull, whereas here you can change all sorts of aspects, and that's the crafting part of the game, not exactly the guns themselves. But the base guns that you get, i.e. the 10mm, the pipe rifles and whatnot, I kind of miss the revolvers and whatnot from what's it called, from New Vegas. So that's in terms of the guns themselves. And also I should mention, I'm not going to spoil anything story-wise, I'm just going to run around the open world a little bit, so you don't have to worry about that. Basically, yeah, the guns, like, there's no anti-material rifle, there are some very cool, unique guns, fair enough, but they just fall a little bit short in my eyes. Like, there's no 9mm pistol, there's no... It's missing quite a lot. It's a good base, it's a great base for further expansion with mods. However, it's not much more than that. Like, modding them, again, crafting different parts of your guns and whatnot, great, superb. Energy weapons, fairly good, as well. But I kind of do miss at least a little bit the various guns from New Vegas. I think they're slightly better. That said, I'm going to go straight into Fallout 4 in terms of what features it has that are just flat out better than in New Vegas. And I'm going to start with arguably the most important thing, combat. The combat in Fallout 4 is one of those rare, well, I don't want to say rare, but one of those things that is going to make me play this game again and again, at least a couple of times. Itself, just based on that, because the combat is so much more fluid. You got to see a bit of a combat in that long discussion in Fallout New Vegas. Well, essentially, in Fallout 4, it's so much better, so much more fluid, so much more fun, and isn't that the most important of it all? The most important thing of it all, it's just so much more fun, and you use cover a lot more effectively. Your VATS is a lot better as well. It doesn't freeze time now; it just pauses it, and there's various things like that. The combat has just it's just leaped forward. No questions about it. No debate. The combat has leaped forward without any questions whatsoever, and I'm very glad that it has. This combat is very important in these games. You know, it's something that you're going to be doing very often, and it has to be good. If the combat's bad, then we have a problem. That said, though, combat in New Vegas was never really that good. Combat in Fallout was never really that good. You always played these things for the story and the RPG element of it all, but it wasn't terrible either. I mean, it got the job done. Now, though, it's very fun. It's actually very fun to shoot people up and blow them up and all things associated with. So, combat out of the way. Next, crafting. I already sort of slightly mentioned this. You can mod your pieces of armor to high hell, basically. You can do whatever the hell you want with them. Add all sorts of different colors to your armor, to your power armor, add different mods and features to your regular armor. It's just great. It's just weapons as well. You can modify them in 100 different ways, especially the energy weapons. The conventional ballistic weapons, yes, but you're sort of just giving them flat upgrades most of the time, or changing them from single fire to fully automatic, which, okay, it's good, but especially the laser weapons, you can change from, oh god, you can change from a shotgun to, I'm actually going to lower the audio very slightly. You can change it from a shotgun to a sniper rifle to an assault rifle to a focused beam type thing. Yeah, you can do all sorts of things like that. Next, the loot. You got a chance to see a lot of me looting different items in here and there as well. And the basic TLDR of it is, looting in Fallout 4 is a lot more... Well, it's just a lot better, but there's more to it than that. It's a lot more rewarding and a lot less painful to an extent, because now you can, all the stuff that you don't need, the junk and then the spare weapons and stuff, you can either give to your settlers, you can either sell them, or you can scrap them for materials that are useful for building your settlements. So collecting a load of random toys and, you know, screws and whatnot is a lot more useful, as it would be in a post-apocalyptic world. I'm not saying it's particularly realistic, but you do need to have that element of realism where you collect junk to build stuff from it. You know, just because it adds so much more to the game, not because we're looking for perfect realism. That said, we're now going to move on and discuss something else. It's not junk, which makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, you don't generally want to be talking about junk all the time. Power armor. What about it? It's great. Yeah, it's great. It's great in all the Fallout games. If I were a particularly careful person that paid a lot of attention to detail, I would show you gameplay in power armor, but alas, alack, I forgot to bring some. I actually have quite a few sets. Collecting power armor is now fun. It's the hobby. People, I've seen people collect like 20 different pieces of sets of power armor, and yeah, it's the mechanics behind it changed for the better. I just one complaint. If you're playing a hardcore character, if you're playing like a lot of people that have played the game in the past do, play Fallout games in the past do, which is to say, if you're not a noob and you want to get your money's worth out of this and you want to hardcore go into it, what do I mean by this? No fast traveling, no exploiting of the game, role playing. No, I'm going to pick this option because I know what happens. You know what I mean, like stuff like that. If you're going hardcore into the game, it's broken. No two ways about it. They broke it. They broke the power armor for one simple reason. That reason being, if you fast travel, you don't lose any energy. If you walk, you go through fusion cells like it's nobody's business. Pretty much forcing you to take nuclear physicist just to be able to use power armor and walk around the world. That said, there's someone yelling outside. I apologize. That said, however, it is somewhat acceptable, because there is going to be a mod that comes out and fixes this very soon, I know. So from that perspective, you could probably get away with just not using power armor and not building a character around it for now. But even that, at that, it's a poor excuse. So I've never seen a scavenger in here. We discover new things each day. I would like, however, for there to be a different, a way to change these mechanics for the power armor, because waiting for a mod to change all of it is extremely... It's a very bad excuse, let's just say that. Vertibirds, the next big feature that's just flat out better than in New Vegas. There is actually, I think, in the game files for New Vegas, a vertibird. You can't fly it, but I'm pretty... Yeah, actually, yeah, there is. It's when you go and talk to Kimball. Isn't it? It's towards the end of the game. I'm fairly certain there's a vertibird there, which is more or less the only time we get to see it. Here, they're flying around all the time. You get to fight them, you get to fly in them, you get to all sorts of things. Yeah, it's just great. We have vertibirds, and oddly enough, you can fast travel with them. And I don't mean the traditional sense of fast travel as you would expect, as you would in the game. Oh, for fuck's sake! As you would in the game, using anything else to fast travel. I mean you fast travel in the sense of get in it and it will fly you to where you need to be. Can you please kill this thing? No? You critted him for how much damage again? Okay. It would be really embarrassing if I died there. However, I am sorry, I'm being horribly distracted. Give me a second. Okay, crisis averted. So it's like they're going for this. Here's a really cool option for those of you that don't want to use fast travel and cheat, if we're honest. But at the same time, they do the thing with power armor, so it's sort of like a balance between those two. But it's, again, like I digress. It's a very, very cool feature that you can call upon a vertibird. Well, you can and you can't. Again, no spoilers. You'll see when you get into the game a bit more in depth if you haven't done so already, but yeah. Let's just say there is a certain path that you can take that allows you to call upon vertibirds and use them in that sense. So, very cool. Vertibirds, thumbs up. You get points on that. Next, companions. Here's the thing. There is a lot of companions in both New Vegas and Fallout 4. You can romance companions in Fallout 4, which to me personally doesn't mean jack shit. Especially when the romance is getting an XP buff every time I sleep in a bed. No, I'm not insinuating that I want certain scenes within this game. Quite the opposite. I am pleased that there is a lack thereof, because the game's never been that type of game. Whereas if you were to consider Witcher, Mass Effect, the game is that type of game where you need human personal interaction between the protagonist and other characters. It fits Mass Effect equally. Romances in Mass Effect were an integral and important part of the game, and it isn't just a thing to raise popularity. Matter of fact, if you're interested more on the topic, the developers of The Witcher, CD Projekt Red, have made a really nice discussion about whether such scenes within video games are just there to raise popularity or not, and to raise the ratings and to get more, to sell more, basically, to teenagers and similar. I have just lost all respect for, or rather from, all viewers by missing 5 shots in a row. Though, to be fair, those are probably the toughest enemies in the game. I know, it's weird. I can take down a behemoth, but I can't take down a fucking bloodfly. Anyways, yeah, that's like completely besides the point. The companions feel a lot more human than they did in vanilla New Vegas. Now, obviously, with mods, there's a dude out there who you may have heard of him. He's called Gopher. He made a New Vegas playthrough focused a ton on companions, and with mods and with something especially like the fact that they could die at any point and just be gone from the game, right? Not just fall over and get back up after 5 seconds, made the game so much better, so much more exciting. We don't have that in vanilla New Vegas, and we don't have that in vanilla Fallout 4, so sad face. But that said, the comments that your followers and your companions make, the personal interactions with them, which were fairly good in New Vegas as well, but it maintains that level of personal interaction you can have with them, like a quest, like you can give them certain stuff. For example, I seem to remember you could give Codsworth a hat, you can give a teddy bear to the dog, you can give, back in New Vegas, you could give a dress to that Brotherhood chick. What's her name? I think we actually saw her in the gameplay I showed you, which is just makes it even more awkward that I can't remember her name. But yeah, like we could interact with them here and there, and we can interact with them here fairly well too. However, please get off me. Yeah, it's a lot easier to focus in on talking and combat in New Vegas than it is here. Combat really does drain a lot out of you. Like, a lot of your attention is just, you have to focus on shooting at stuff. Whereas in New Vegas, you can just sort of do that and talk without much issue. I'm playing on Legendary difficulty, by the way, so I apologize for the brief period of silence. Okay. I should talk about the difficulty as well, but I'm going to refrain from comment on that, probably. I don't want to get flamed on it, but I think the difficulty is very poorly done in New Vegas, but I said I'm going to talk about only the positives right now, so I'm going to do that. Well, essentially, the companions I prefer in Fallout 4 compared to vanilla, again. If they could die in Fallout 4, if there was an option in the options menu to tick, or at least in the difficulty options, you can tick companions can be killed, and their AI was slightly better and we had slightly more control over what they do, i.e. they don't just charge in straight towards a minefield or whatever, then I would prefer them in Fallout 4, regardless of any mods or regardless of anything in New Vegas, because they are just better. Your interactions with them are better, the comments that they make are a lot better, they seem a lot more like companions than they do in vanilla New Vegas. However, they do get dehumanized a fair bit, if that makes sense. What do I mean by it? Well, they get dehumanized because, essentially, a mini-nuke can fall on your companion, and that's embarrassing. She went invisible there for a second, I didn't know they could do that. A mini-nuke can fall on your companion, and they would get up with just, like, after 10 seconds, be like, what? What are you going to do about it? And that just, I struggle to look at Piper the same way after I saw her eat 2 nuclear missiles to the face and get up and be like, hi, Blue. Like, don't ever talk to me again. But yeah, other than that, you tend to use them as a duffel bag or a backpack more than a person. Yeah, hey, open up, I need to put my junk in you, and yes, you can make a rude joke regarding that. I allow it. But you go like, open up, I need to put all my shit in you, and then I'm gonna carry you over to the next outpost where we're gonna sell it all, because that's what your main purpose is. So they do get, we're encouraged in a way to dehumanize them in that sense, but I do love their comments. And I do love the fact that they now like or dislike you depending on your actions and all that. Though I do think you shouldn't be able to see whether they liked or disliked a particular action of yours. However, that is maybe a discussion for a different time. But companions on a whole, or rather as a whole, I consider them better in Fallout 4 than in New Vegas. Well, what about the enemies, or the enemy variety? This is something maybe a bit original, if I dare say so myself, in that I don't think a lot of people would have thought to discuss this and think about this. I'd give the edge here to Fallout 4 for one simple reason, and that is, from a pure technical standpoint, they can afford to have more enemy variety. The super mutants play a lot differently to the raiders. ghouls play completely differently to any of the previously mentioned enemies. Mutants and mutated creatures and deathclaws and rad scorpions and flies all play in their way, all move in a particular way, all attack with different patterns and different timings. Whereas in New Vegas, you would see that an NCR soldier, a raider, a super mutant, they would all more or less attack you in the same way, use same tactics. Here, it's much different. They vary a lot. You'll also see what particularly annoyed me is that ghouls in New Vegas were basically humans without guns. That's what they were. They were humans without guns. They didn't move in any way that made me think, oh, that's a ghoul. Sure, they had a different stance, and occasionally they would stop and look up at the heavens and go, rah, which made them like ghouls. And obviously this is a thing because the game was released some time ago, and then a while ago, and, you know, we couldn't have what we have today back then. But I accept this fully, and so should you, and we need to realize that because of this new technological development, New Vegas is showing its age in Fallout 4 has it beat in that level. And this is a video where I compare the two, so it's only fair to say that in terms of enemy behavior and variety, Fallout 4 has a lot of points, of these imaginative points that I'm giving these games. It has a lot more of it than New Vegas. So yeah, moving on. Final point before I give my verdict. I don't mean point in like 1, 2, or 3 points. I mean final opinion and discussion. Leveling up. A lot of people were disappointed when a new leveling up system was announced for Fallout 4. What do I mean by this? Well, we were basically told that everything right now, the only thing you need to do to level up is gather enough experience points and go into here and pick. I think this is better. Is it dumbing it down? No. Yes and no. Yes, in terms of now you get points, and here we go. You pick something that looks cool, and you go like, alright, I'm having that. And you go back to playing. Not too much thought behind it. But, consider New Vegas. And consider the points that you had to spend in guns, and even Fallout 3, because it works similarly. Consider that you had to spend points in speech, medicine, lockpicking, guns, etc. But having 23 or 22 points made absolutely no difference. 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. Those are the only points that actually matter. So when you get from 76 to 84, it's going to take you like at least 2 levels to get there. Provided you don't focus on exclusively that. It depends on what kind of character you built and what's your intelligence and what perks you have, and etc, etc. But when you get from that point to the next, it is no longer. It's irrelevant, and that's not good. You leveled up, but it's sort of been irrelevant. No, it's not the way we do it. Here, if you level up every single time, you're going to get a perk. Every single time that perk is going to do something. You might not notice it immediately, it might not be that much of an impactful perk, like Life Giver just gives you a bit more HP, or I don't know, something, but still, it is a perk that when you use it, you get the perk, and you don't feel like you haven't done anything when you leveled up. So converting everything into perks, I think, is definitively an upside in New Vegas. That's, again, just my opinion, but I know I'm not the only one that has this opinion, and I think it's... You might argue that it's dumbing it down, but it wasn't really, let's be honest, it wasn't really incredibly complex in New Vegas either. So, that concludes more or less my discussion. One quick little thing. Obviously, Fallout 4 looks a lot better, technologically advanced game. I feel like I don't need to talk about that. It's obvious that from a technological standpoint, from the engine standpoint, well, the engine arguably, but from a technological standpoint, from a graphical fidelity standpoint, the Fallout 4 just beats New Vegas. It's to be expected. New Vegas is an older game. I've made the point where I said this before. It looks good, but it doesn't look that good. Like, it needs a new engine. But I already mentioned that. I don't want to repeat myself. This more or less concludes my comparison of what I think is better in Fallout New Vegas and what I think is better in. What are the pros of New Vegas and what are the pros of Fallout 4? Let's say. Now for the final finale, grand finale of everything. Which of these two do I consider a better game? Taking in mind everything that I said about both of them and the price of both of them and the age of both of them, that now Fallout 4 is new and New Vegas is an old game, and taking in mind everything that I said, which of the two do I consider to be a better game? Drum roll, please. The game is Fallout New Vegas. Why? Why? Am I crazy? What's my thinking? I hear you ask. Some of you, at least. Well, probably most of you. Quick little explanation. Two massive things, in my eyes, make New Vegas a slightly better game. Two big and important things. Two of them. Freedom, which I've talked about, and mods. Someone out there, probably most of you, are incredibly bored of the fact that I just will not shut up about mods. To you, I apologize. But this is all bearing in mind that Fallout 4 right now doesn't have a superbly high amount of mods. Okay? It's still in its basic period. It's still in its initial stage of. It's still at the start of its modding career, if that makes any sense. When Fallout 4 gets the number and the quality and quantity of mods of New Vegas, then we might, and as a matter of fact probably will, consider Fallout 4 to be the ultimate Fallout game. Let's be honest, mods are going to turn it into that whether we like it or not. There's people out there that are going to commit hours upon hours to make it a better game than it already is. So, that said, at one point later, I guarantee that my opinion is going to change. Right now, though, I consider Fallout New Vegas to be a superior game, mostly because of the mods, and as I already mentioned, the freedom of being able to build our character however the hell we want. There we go. And also that. My companion has just died. I need to accept this loss and move on with my life. I attacked a bunch of fiends. I didn't take care of my companions. I hid away. And my companion is dead. She's dead. Accept the loss and move on. Welcome to the wasteland. Hardcore mode. We can't do that in Fallout 4, and that's the other major reason why I dislike it. I don't dislike it. I like this one slightly more. Don't get me wrong, I love Fallout 4 as well. That's a great game. I think that game has amazing potential. All of that, yes, all of that is just, yeah, great. But I'd still consider New Vegas to be slightly superior than now. I expect that there will be those who disagree with me. I expect that there will be those that look at the textures and look at the lighting and everything and go, how could you like this more than Fallout 4? And fair enough. I know. It's okay. If you like Fallout 4 more than New Vegas, fair enough. Congratulations, go play Fallout 4. Have a blast. I really wish you all the best. For me right now, New Vegas is a D bit better. Ultimately, it does come down to one thing. Ultimately, I finished Fallout 4, and I was like, what am I going to play next? Well, I had a couple of RPGs in mind, and I wanted to complete The Witcher 3 one more time on New Game Plus, which I'm doing. But then I saw an old Let's Play video of someone's of Fallout 3. I was like, that kind of reminded me of New Vegas. It was like, it would be cool to go back to New Vegas and see how much is different and what's better and what's worse, and which kind of inspired me to make the video to begin with. I think I got my answer, and I'm fairly satisfied with it. A pure and simple hardcore mode in this game makes it better. The need for food, water and sleep. The fact that if I get crippled, I am going to start panicking if I don't have a doctor's bag, because I'm going to need to run the hell away 10 kilometers in that direction to find a doctor. Which, let's be honest, is not exactly that easy if you're being attacked while you're thinking about running away. In Fallout 4, even on the highest difficulty level, you heal reasonably quickly. Your limbs get crippled, and within a minute, literally a minute, you're in perfect health again, because you either injected a stim pack or drank enough water or whatever. Yeah. Those are my main reasons. You may disagree with them, and you may rant on about how you disagree with them to all you like. That's what I think. That's what I'm going to put out there. That's what I'm going to share with you, and basically do with that information as you will. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Juggernaut. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe down below if you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel. Until next time, take care. And I bid you farewell.